Talking about individual people, individual citizens, not receiving the kind of help or support or anything else they wish. And so nowadays we see that instead of turning, as usual in Chinese culture, to their kin or relationship networks, there are increasing numbers of people who simply turn to the internet and use internet resources to get the help that they can't get. What we then also see, which I will mention again later, is that this has been picked up by the central government in China, and the central government in China has now turned around and said that this is actually a legitimate and official channel through which the central government in Beijing wants to communicate with ordinary citizens, which is a rather surprising development. The newest development on this particular issue came out just this week, on June 8th, so earlier this week. The Chinese government published a new white paper on the internet in China, and in this white paper they stated very specifically that they see the internet as a bridge between ordinary citizens and the central government, and that they are actually asking ordinary people to input their ideas into the internet, and that the leaders of the government, says down here, the leaders of China frequently log onto the internet to get to know the public's wishes, and sometimes have direct online communication with netizens to discuss state affairs and answering their questions. Now this is an official government document from the highest level of government of China that is essentially saying that the highest levels of government of China are interested in finding out what their citizens think as long as they post it online. Okay? Now China's internet is in general very different from the rest of the world. And so just very, very briefly, China's internet is huge, it's gigantic. There are, as of April, more than 400 million internet users in China. So if you pardon me, you could say that online China is at the moment the third largest country in the world, after offline China and India. However, it is also very separate. There are, in existence at the moment, only 27 connections between mainland China's internet and the rest of the world. So 27 cables lead from China to outside China, which is nothing, okay? Which means that speeds and so on are really, really terrible if you're going from inside to outside China and so on, so most people don't bother. China's internet is also different because it's entirely government owned. There's no such thing as private internet providers in China. It's all government owned, government paid for, government built. The backbone, all the cables, everything. This means whatever happens on the internet is actually, in a way, permitted by the Chinese government, which is an interesting thought there. They do not have to talk about getting control over the internet like governments in America or in Europe. They have it, that's their starting position. So their position is more to think about how much can we allow, rather than how can we get control over it. Okay? In general, the Chinese internet is more consumption-oriented, less production-oriented. People go online to play games, to watch movies, to do things like that, rather than actually produce lots of stuff online. And they're also, in characteristic, they're very different from what you see in the happening in the global internet. The Chinese internet is still very much built around portals, so you go to one website where you have everything from your email address, your blog, you have your online forum, you have all of these things together and do your shopping on the same site as well. You have a lot of JavaScript going on, basically lots of things that pop up and fly across your screen and all these sort of things that most Western sites have sort of gotten rid of. And what I'm talking about today, specifically, they have human flash search engines. Human flash search engines are a specific development in China. As far as I'm aware, the only other place that has something comparable is at the moment Korea, and they, as far as I'm aware, learned it from China. Now, what are human flash search engines? Human flash search engines, or in Chinese, Renro Soso, and therefore I simply use RRSS, which is shorter. They are like a search engine for people that doesn't work just through theoretical algorithms or anything. Instead, it gets people involved. So it's something like a mass online vigilante hunt. You post information online about the person that you try to find, and then other people see this information, they post lots of information there until you find who you're looking for. Okay, that's how they work roughly. It's essentially something like, well, crowdsourcing of search efforts here. There are several rather big ones in China. The biggest one is mob.com up there. However, there's a lot of others that specialize in different things. I'm going to say some more about the second one there in a minute. But just to show you how acceptable this is in China and how widespread, you can actually see that even Google in China has one of these human flash search engines, or RSSs. And interestingly enough, although Google moved, well, famously out of China into Hong Kong, the human flash search engine stayed in China and is still accessible and usable in China. So Google didn't actually move that one out. Human flash search engines are, of course, slightly problematic because they basically work on the basis of rumor and slander. There's no privacy protection, as I will show you in a few examples here. However, they do provide a facility for self-help. Anybody can start one of these things, and a lot of people have. And a lot of people simply get help from it. It's accessible to just about anybody, and it is very socially acceptable to post something like that. So, although in the West this would probably be illegal, and there are several professors from Hong Kong University who have written articles about these human flash search engines and how problematic they are, within China they are fully accepted and acceptable. So how do people help themselves? What sort of things are we talking about here? One of the things we're talking about here is, for example, finding missing people. At the top left you have a person whose wife apparently ran away, and now he's trying to find her again. So he posts her picture and some of the information about her online and asks for people's help in finding his wife and tracking her down. You have at the bottom, in the middle, you have a guy posting because this person pictured here helped him with something in the past, and he never had a chance to thank this person adequately, so he's trying to track him down now. Okay, this sort of thing. And as I said, this is what the second website I had on my list specializes in. That's why it's called 51 Jia Ren. In Chinese, 五要找人 basically means I want to find somebody. Okay? And that's why the website is called that. Then there is cases where people have wanted to help somebody. You have cases like the one on the left side where somebody in an underpass in Beijing saw a girl singing. And he liked it so much that he went online and wanted to share it with the world and wanted the world's help to help this girl. People online then went to work, identified her, got her addresses and everything, and then the girl actually got scared off at first because of all the support, but it ended with her being signed up for a TV talent contest because so many people supported her. The girl on the top right used to sell candied fruit outside a university, and again, same thing happened. One of her customers thought she was such a friendly girl selling things and so on, so posted her picture online, people identified her, and by now, I think in the course of 3 or 4 months, she made enough money off her candied fruit stand that she's now thinking of opening a restaurant. Okay? The one on the bottom right was a peasant girl who moved into the city and couldn't find a job, and one day she was so fed up with life and everything, she posted a long letter online saying, "Oh, I'm a peasant girl, my life is horrible." And people identified her, provided her with help, found her a job, and so on. These sort of things, okay? This one here is the most famous case that people will know here as well, the brick factory slavery about 2 or 3 years ago, where parents lost their children. Children large scale had been abducted from homes, and then they had been forced to work in brick factories, brick making factories. However, local officials were not willing to help, so 400 fathers posted a letter, open letter online. And then people used these RISS to find these kids where they were held in slavery. This information was supplied to the central government, who then sent out a huge police force to 2 provinces. They arrested lots of people. They freed over 500 people with this action. There's then lots of other things. I mean, people punish moral behavior that they find questionable. The most famous case there in the middle, a woman who crushed the skull of a little kitten with her high heels, who was then identified via an online thing and then lost her job and several other things. Basically, people use this to punish people they think deserve punishment. The government itself is then involved in this as well, because government actually has now started using the information these RSS produce, where people identify people they think are evildoers. If some of that behavior is actually criminal, say of somebody posting sex videos online of themselves, or people forcing a young girl to undress and then having her raped and stuff, or a girl complaining about the earthquake victims in Sichuan, and then being identified, police actually then acts on this information. They take the information now from RSS and go around arrest people if they deserve this, simply on the basis of these human flesh hunter search engines. Then there's citizens checking up on officials. There was the case of a prisoner dying in a cell, and the officials in the local prison then stated, oh, the prisoners had been playing hide and seek in their little prison cell. And this started a massive complaint online and everything, and in the end the prison officials actually invited several people from the netizens, normal people online, to come to the prison and check everything out and then post their information online and things like that. Then you have actual officials being punished and hunted down, like this official down here who was seen smoking a brand of cigarette that he shouldn't be able to afford on his salary. And people tracked down how much that actually cost. They then also identified a watch of his that was far too expensive. This led to the guy actually ending up in prison for corruption. RSS have been attacked by local officials quite frequently. In Suzhou, a city in Jiangsu, they wanted to ban them completely. In Zhejiang province, they're trying this at the moment as well. However, the central government is actually behind this in China. So you have the state council essentially saying that last year, 84 government officials were actually identified by these RSS and then afterwards arrested in China. So the central government is taking this very seriously. Or down here, the head of the General Administration of Press and Publication in China saying that internet supervision is playing a very important role in checking government in China. Hu Jintao, the president of China, in a webcast, chatting with people, telling them, yeah, the web is a channel to get into contact with me. The premier of China, Wen Jiabao, has now started what they're calling a new tradition in China, that every year before China's big National People's Congress, he will hold a web chat with people to get normal citizens' input into this. So in conclusion, people see from the bottom up that there are lots of problems with the Chinese system at the moment, especially at the local level, in charity, in social security. They see problems with moral order, the legal system, and so on and so on and so on. And they're no longer, or many of them are no longer going to the streets to demonstrate. Instead, they turn to the internet and put their complaints in there. And the central government is actually responding, because they see this as a sort of gap fill, where local government incompetence, corruption can be supervised and can be attacked. So the local government can now be controlled by this alliance of local people and the central government in many ways. So problems can be addressed earlier, and ultimately, as several people have pointed out already now, in a way this will actually keep China more stable, and the central government sees this as a stabilizing force for the whole country. That local officials can now be seeing that, and people can have a pressure valve and can find ways to solve their own problems. Thank you very much.